right, welcome. So, how's y'all's April going? We just heard from Amy Tomchu talking about all these things on birds of the Bible and how inspiring that is. But this week, I wanted to talk about what do you do? How do you start if you've inherited unmanaged land? Do you keep it? How do you move forward? How do you know what the right decision is to do first? Now, we're going to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, okay? Your problem isn't uncommon. All right. This happens so many times before. I've heard story after story, and I've worked with landowner after landowner and woman after woman who share these very same sentiments. They have this property that no one's really done anything with, and they don't know how to move forward. They don't even know what it is that they own. So we're going to give 3 simple steps of what you can do and what you should do before you take any actual action on the ground. And this includes harvesting your timber. We know how much I love harvesting some timber and cutting your trees, all right? But before we do that, we need to go through these steps first, okay? Because trust me, if you can do 1, then 2, and then 3, whenever you do take action, whatever decisions you do decide to make, you're going to feel so much more comfortable and so much more confident knowing you are moving in the right direction. So, what are these principles? What are these steps? The first one is to determine your goals. You need to know what it is that you want to do with this land, or if you even should be keeping this land. Is the right decision for you to decide to take the reins and actually manage it, or is the right decision for you and your family and your situation to sell it? Now, if you're at this crossroads and you're trying to determine do you sell it or not, I do highly recommend checking out season 1, episode 34, where I do dive into this very specific topic and I give you some steps, some questions to consider, to reflect on that are going to help you make that decision a lot more logically with a little less emotion involved. But if you decide to keep it, which I'm hoping you do, but again, some situations may not be best for that. If you decide to keep it, you do need to determine what your goals are. And this includes what are your goals for your land, but kind of what are your goals for you and your family itself. And goals can be more than just like, oh, I want big trees, I want to improve wildlife habitat. You need to also think about like, I want to actually work this land a little bit more often. I want to be engaged. I want to be hands off. I want to be able to take my family to vacations multiple times, every few years. I want to be able to retire comfortably and have a steady stream of income. What are your goals? Now, I'm using this word, but if you join me in my academy or join any of my other sessions before, you probably heard me refer to this as your why factor. Now, these are going to be slightly different. Your why factor is that strong motivating purpose. And this can be, a deeper level that I definitely want you to get into. But if you're just taking the reins and just inherited this piece of unmanaged property and trying to figure out what it is you want, it simply starts down to what are your goals? What are the goals that you're trying to achieve with yourself, your family, and then for your forest lands? Now, to look at why goals is so important, we're going to be jumping over to Proverbs 21:5. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Now, I've used this scripture a lot of times, especially when I'm talking about financial sustainability, but it is also so relevant to goal setting because we see here that the plans of the diligent lead to profit versus haste leads to poverty. When we make decisions on impulse and haste, when we feel like we're a rock against a hard place, we tend to make poor or contradictory decisions that don't help us actually get anywhere we want. Sometimes we get lucky and we're like, oh, thank goodness I did that, and I decided to act on that. Opportunity is of course what we're going to call it, very, very quickly. But a lot of times it leads us to even further trouble. It leads us to potentially financial burdensome situations because we weren't diligent in how we want to move forward. And how do you get diligent to lead to profit? By setting goals. How can you determine if this operation, if this practice, if this decision is right moving forward if you don't even know what it is you're trying to hit, if you don't even know what mark you're trying to aim for? So you need to know what your goals are. How active do you want to be on the property? How maybe hands off do you want to be? How much income streams do you want to receive from your forest lands potentially, and in what stage of life are you potentially in? Are you in a stage of life that you have a lot of young ones and maybe some periodic income would really help take some small family vacations? Or are you looking towards retirement and maybe wanting some big lump sum? Or maybe you're looking towards your kids or your grandkids' college education situations that you want to be able to help support and receiving either periodic or a large lump sum of cash at that point in time is a goal that you're aiming for. We can see when we decide to take these reins from our forest lands and actually start making management decisions, our life and our land become very, very intertwined. What we decide we want in our personal lives greatly impact either what we may or may not want to do with our forest lands, whether you live near the land or you live far away. Our life and our land can be very intertwined. So we need to determine what our goals are and how that impacts the decisions we want to do for that land. The second step we want to do after we decided what our personal goals are and what our goals are might be for that forest land is to get advice from a trusted professional. Now, notice here, I'm not talking about your cousin Joe who had some experience interning at a forestry company, running coffees and doing lobbying work, or your best friend's Bobby's coworker who knows a little bit of something because he cut his trees once. I'm talking about a trusted professional. This is either a registered forester or a professional forester. Depending on the state you're in, depends on if they have to be registered by law or not. Some states you do have to go through that additional registration, and some states you don't. So make sure you know what state you're in and what their guidelines are. Again, for example, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina, I know for a fact you have to be registered forester to be a consultant to give legal advice on what to do for your forest lands. Compared to Florida, you don't necessarily need to be registered through the state to also be a consultant forester. So this is important because you want to make sure you are getting provided the right, ethical, and proper advice for your property. Now, why is this important to actually receive this advice? Like, can't you just Google some information and figure out what it is you want to do and kind of put together, like, I'll cut some trees, I'll do some fire, I'll plant some extra food plots out there because I like hunting. Why do I need to work with a professional? Proverbs 23, verses 5 through 6 says, "The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. Surely you need guidance to wage war, and victory is won through many advisors." Your forest land may not necessarily be waging war, but the sentiment is true. The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. You got to have knowledge to be able to have power to do the decision makings you need to have to do for your forest lands. And how do you get more knowledge to be wise? By working with trusted professionals. We're working with many advisors to get victory. So no matter what your goals are, you want to make sure you're working with a trusted advisor. Now, why wouldn't you just call someone first and then determine what your goals are? I place goals and setting that factor first before you talk to anybody, simply because then you're going to be able to express what it is you desire and want. And then you're going to be able to make sure you're working with the right consultant forester. And if you're trying to determine, like, how do I figure out who the right forester is, I have lots of podcast episodes as well as free articles on that. I do highly recommend for you to check those out. And I go through different interview questions to help you navigate on which consultant would be a good fit for you. Because forestry is very subjective, all right? And you're going to receive different answers from different foresters based on their experience, based on their perspectives, and based on their own personal, like, kind of stereotyping goals. Now, a lot of times there will be a lot of crossover and they won't be significantly different, but sometimes they may be. So, for example, if you're working with a forester who has maybe a biologist background and biologist degree, he's going to be very wildlife minded. Now, that's not a bad thing. That is a very good thing if you have a lot of strong conservation wildlife goals. However, if you have a very strong profit motive, maximizing your product opportunities from your timber, having a very strong wildlife oriented forester is probably not going to be the right fit for you, because the harvesting recommendations that he may be providing are going to differ than someone who does have more of a production minded perspective and experience. Neither is right or wrong. They simply are helping you get to different goals. And you also don't want to feel like you're being swayed one way or another. Now, again, they are the professionals. They're going to be able to see things on your land that maybe you didn't even consider, like your land type, what's going to be able to be more suitable for different harvesting techniques or schemes or timing on what to plant, on where to put your food plots, perhaps. They're going to be able to see things a little bit more technically that you probably weren't able to know. But being strong and set in your goals and knowing what you're trying to achieve is going to give you much better communication with them, and they're going to be able to provide you and steer you into the right advice to help you reach those goals. And this is crucial when you have unmanaged land before, because you kind of have a blank slate. It's a very, very messy blank slate. So you got to clear out a lot of that mess to really get the ball rolling, compared to if you have bare ground and the opportunities are endless because you're starting to grow trees and you would start with planting them. Inheriting something that's never been managed, you have a bit of a messier situation you got to move forward with. And so the action you take, you want to make sure is the right action moving forward. Third is going to be creating some financial structures that are going to help you create this financial sustainability system on your land. I love logging, I love timber, I love getting revenue from our timber products. However, we don't always want to rely on everything and only on that timber harvesting. There have been plenty of instances where we have seen natural disasters occur or markets fall, sometimes unexpectedly, that can drastically change that major lump sum opportunity we were banking on. There are a lot of other reasons why it would be very, very wise to create these financial structures, these sustainability systems that help you create these consistent revenue streams. I talk about this in several other podcasts as well. And the best part is, I'm going to be talking about this in a live class coming up at the end of the month, landowner to steward. So if you're really, really interested in creating these financial sustainability systems to really becoming and grasping being a true steward, you're going to want to jump on that wait list right now to be able to hear out when that's coming up. But Ecclesiastes 11, verse 2 says, "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, and 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." Ecclesiastes is written by Solomon, who's known as one of the wisest people, that's ever existed, because he's gained his wisdom from God himself. And he's telling you to diversify. He's telling us to diversify our investments, our ventures, because we don't know necessarily what's going to work when it might work. We don't know what disaster may come upon the land. And so setting up these different systems, not placing all of our eggs into one basket, is going to help us prosper no matter the circumstances that are coming through. So this may seem like a lot. All right. And I fully understand that. You may be thinking, okay, well, Daniel, you didn't really give me like some direct steps of what I need to do with this unherited, unmanaged land. What do I need to do? I need to know, like, what can I do right now? Perhaps you're feeling like this inherited property that's never had anything done with it before. It's just bleeding your family. Maybe you're looking at it as a perspective liability. Should we keep it? Should we not? Again, before you make any decisions, I recommend checking out my free training on April 23rd. It's going to be 2 ways your forest land's costing you money, and I'm going to give you 3 steps that you can take immediately to start saving and making your land more profitable. And this is going to be true whether you have unmanaged inherited land or if you have been managing your land, but you're ready to kind of making sure that you aren't bleeding money anymore, or you feel like you've been missing a few opportunities to really save or really create profitability, prosperity on your forest lands. And again, that's going to be completely free, 11:30, April 23rd. You can sign up right now to make sure you opt into that free training. But what I want to encourage you at the end of today's podcast, if you've inherited unmanaged land, is to remember it is so important for you to first set your goals, then making sure you're reaching out to trusted professionals. And then from those 2 things, your goals, the advice from your trusted professionals who should be providing you some brief management plans or some other step-by-step plans to take immediately, you want to start creating these financial systems, these financial sustainability structures, looking at different programs that you could possibly enroll into, looking at different opportunities for your land to create this diversity and these periodic income streams to really embrace making your land from a liability to a true asset, that generational wealth, land legacy that you know your land can be. So I hope I see you on April 23rd, or if you're joining the waitlist for Landowner Steward, I can't wait to see you live there. Until next time.